Coming up on Oakdale Update, we'll learn about the city's community survey and the ways the city communicates with its residents. Plus, we'll give you a quick reminder on winter parking rules in the city. Stay tuned, Oakdale Update is straight ahead. Hello and welcome to Oakdale Update. I'm your host, Frank Orsello. This is the City of Oakdale's news and information program about your community. I'm now joined by Oakdale's communications specialist, Alyssa MacLeod. Alyssa, thanks for joining us. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me, Frank.
All right, we got a lot to go over today, so we're going to get started. Okay, so first of all, tell us about yourself, a little bit of your background.
Okay. Well, I've been with the city for just over 3.5 years now, working as their very first communications specialist. This was a new position when I took the role. A little bit about my background. I've been working in communications in a variety of different capacities for the past 15 to 20 years, mostly in community-oriented work. So I worked for other communities, Chamber of Commerce. I worked for the St. Paul Area Association of Realtors prior to this as well. But really community-focused communications work.
Where did you go to school?
I did my undergrad at Bemidji State, and then I also pursued my MBA later on in life, and then I have a certification in digital marketing as well. So
the city of Oakdale hired you as our first communication director. What does that mean? What does a communication director do?
Well, to just broadly state...
I say specialist, you're communication specialist.
Yes, communication specialist, that's correct. So to broadly summarize what a communication specialist does, it is the means by which to communicate from the city to its residents and other stakeholders and out there. So handles a lot of responsibilities, social media management, website management, a lot with the creative services, so video production or graphic design, when we were looking at designing flyers or brochures or other collateral, including the city newsletter that gets sent out 3 times a year.
Which is really good, I might add.
Well, thank you.
You do a wonderful job on that. It's colorful, it gets to the point, and it's got a lot of good material.
Yeah.
I interrupted you, go ahead,
I'm
sorry.
Not a problem. Yeah, and a lot too with the community city branding. That was one of the first projects that I worked on when starting with the city is updating and refreshing the city's brand to make it more consistent and recognizable throughout all of our communications.
So what made the city feel that they needed your job, needed you for that job?
You know, this has been kind of a newer position in cities and communities across the board. Communications is kind of a newer adopted position. Longer standing in some of the larger cities, but more of the smaller, medium-sized communities, this is a newer position. And I think it's really just because the amount of communication channels that are out there and the way that people are communicating has grown drastically.
Yes.
Before it was the local newspaper and you'd visit the city's website and a newsletter, but now we've got all these social media channels, different ways of communicating, and you need someone that can reach them where they're at. And there's just different ways of communicating too. It's no longer communicating just via a press release.
Sure.
All this multimedia, including video communications, graphics. Now to engage residents, you need to have engaging content to bring them in and to explain what's going on.
Sure.
So just, I think that communications, the need for it has grown, and the way that it's done these days has changed and
So
evolved.
we used to have a local newspaper, and that's kaput. That's
Yeah.
gone.
Yep.
I mean, that's how I got all my information.
Yeah.
But that is older than a buggy whip.
Yeah.
Really, it just isn't around anymore.
Nope.
No.
I actually started my career working in newspapers.
Oh, you
so,
did?
Yes, I was a victim of newspapers kind of going out the door.
Oh,
so
it's too bad.
It
I mean,
is. It is.
Personally, I still like to turn the page on things.
I
but
am right there with you.
I do. I get Sunday paper and I
Yeah.
read it from cover to cover. Yeah.
Books
Anyway.
too. I like a hard copy book.
Just like a book.
Yeah.
I'm a book guy too. Anyway, okay, so get into it a little bit deeper here. What exactly is your job with the city? What exactly do you do?
The same things I had just mentioned before. So managing the website and the content that's on there, managing the social media channels, any creative services that the city needs. I also do a bit with some of our community events, helping to plan and market them. So any marketing needs that the city has. I work with some of the city's unique projects or specific projects and help develop communication strategies or plans to communicate those effectively or help with engagement efforts when we need to involve the community in something. So it really ranges across the board, and it's ever evolving and ever changing. So includes a lot of different things.
Okay, so in the age of communications, how is the city, what are the things that the
Sure.
city has done to stay in touch with their residents?
So we offer a variety of different channels or communicate through a lot of different channels so that we can meet our residents where they're at or communicate with them in a way that they prefer. So we have social media. We use social media. The channels that we're on Facebook. We have 3 different Facebook channels. We have one for the city. We have one for recreation that they post updates on their programming and is really focused on what they have going on. And then our Oakdale Fire Department has their own Facebook channel.
Oh, they do?
Yeah.
Does the police department have their own?
Police does not. Police does do some communication in a separate way, though. We have Notify Me, which is kind of a newer community communications platform. And we post city updates on there, and then the police have their own channel. Back to the other social media channels, we're also on Twitter and Instagram and YouTube. And YouTube is a newer channel that I'll get into that in a little bit. But we also have on our website a variety of email lists that are broken down by category. So residents, if you go to the web page, our home page on the bottom are a series of orange buttons, and one says Stay Connected. And if you click on that, you'll get a whole list of different topics that you can subscribe to receive email updates about. That's another avenue that the police communicates with. So if they have a press release, they send it out through that channel. Recreation sends out monthly updates on that, showcasing their program offerings. You can also sign up to get agendas for our council and commission meetings sent to you to keep up to date with what they're working on. Employment opportunities, there's a variety of things. We also do updates based on projects. So every year when we do our street improvement project, we send out weekly updates on that so people can keep up to date with what areas of the city are getting work done and where they're at in that project. So a lot of different lists. So I encourage any resident to check that out, to sign up for updates that they're interested in.
Sure. Can you tell how many people are using this service at all?
Yes. So I don't have those numbers off the top of my head, but on the back end,
you can
yes.
check it out, huh?
We can go on the back end and see how many subscribers we have for each one of those.
Really? Oh, that is interesting. So the show, this Oakdale Update show, is on YouTube, is my understanding.
Yes.
Is that correct?
Yep.
Wow.
So Oakdale Update, but we also recently, over the summer, we started this back in June, started live streaming our council meetings and commission meetings on YouTube.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and what we did, people could always tune in on cable to watch the council meetings and variety of commission meetings. But now with YouTube, it offers a really convenient way for anyone to tune in, anyone that has internet access. You don't need an account to watch. You can log in. You can also subscribe to our channel so you get updates and push notifications when a meeting's coming up so you don't miss one. And then the nice thing about that is if you miss any meetings or want to go back and look at some meetings that have occurred in the past, they're all right there for anyone to access.
That is amazing.
Yes,
It really is. That is so good. And you have to understand, I'm a dinosaur when it comes to the communication and that sort of thing, but you make it so much easier, correct? I mean, isn't that about as easy as you could get?
We really, I mean, with our communications, we really want to make the messaging that we send out to residents very clear, easy to understand. We want to make it easy for them to connect with us. And again, because there's so many different platforms and channels out there, it's important that we try to maintain a presence on all of them to help, you know, connect with residents the way that they prefer.
Sure. So now Zooming is really an in thing. I mean, I've had a few meetings myself on Zoom.
Yeah.
Just recently got into it, I might add, but
Yeah.
day late and a dollar short, Orsello, that's me. But anyway, so that's gotten to be pretty, everybody's doing it, right? I mean, and how about, how's the city doing with that? They're running meetings that way and everything?
The city has shifted in some capacities over to that virtual meeting format, and Zoom is the one that we primarily use. There are some other platforms that also allow for virtual meetings, but we do use Zoom. The ways that we have been using Zoom is for, I'll back up and add too, based on where we are at with recommendations from CDC guidelines and social distancing and safety concerns. Over the course of this pandemic, there have been periods where City Hall has been closed to the public. Most recently, we were closed the last couple of months, and we're actually just reopening today, February 1st, for public to do service at City Hall.
With social distancing.
Yeah,
and
social
masks
distancing.
And all
We've
that.
got all the safety requirements met. But because we weren't open to the public, we had to find a way for residents to be able to participate in certain, you know, with our commission meetings and our council meetings without having to come to City Hall. So the way that we have done it over the past couple months, we started conducting our city council and commission meetings via Zoom. So not only does this offer another opportunity or another platform for residents to tune in and view the meetings, but it also allows an option for them to participate, which I think is pretty neat. So people, you know.
So what do you mean? So during a council meeting, people can participate?
Sure.
How so?
So, for example, watching the meeting on cable or watching the meeting on YouTube, they can watch. They can't interact or participate. On Zoom, anyone that's interested in participating or watching we send out our Zoom credentials or the login information on each agenda, and if they log in using that information, they'll be part of the meeting. As you've seen with Zoom meetings, it shows all of the participants. So they'll show up like that. And then during our public forum or public comment period, the mayor will open up the public comment period, and then if, you know, whereas in traditional meetings, any resident that wanted to make a comment would come to the meeting, then when mayor opened up the public comment, they would approach the podium and state their name and address, and you know, were given the opportunity to speak for a few minutes until the public comment period was closed. Well, now we've just shifted that whole process online. So the mayor will open up the public comment period, and this, because they're online and they can't approach the podium, what they'll do is they'll indicate in the chat function or there's a little hand icon that they can post, or if they can even participate by phone by dialing *9. But that indicates to us, the meeting host, that someone is interested in participating. We let the mayor know, and then the process works pretty much the same way, where they announce their name, their address.
Can the mayor control the person's time and that sort of thing that the person is on?
Yes. Typically with public comment periods and meetings, folks are given 3 minutes to speak.
3 minutes, yeah.
And the mayor, you know, whether it be in person or virtual meeting format, states that before the public comment period opens to let people know. And for the most part, people are pretty considerate and respectful of that time limit. So we don't get into a lot of situations where people run over, but if it does, you know, the mayor will remind them that there is.
Can he cut them off?
I mean, with Zoom, we do have the capability of muting and cutting off if we would need to get to that point, but we've never had to resort to that measure.
Okay, so has this been going on for a while now, the Zoom meetings?
Zoom meetings have been going on for a couple of months.
Have you gotten good results, good participation? A lot of people.
You know, we have, last week we had a public hearing for our upcoming street improvement project. We had several residents that are in that project area tune in and provide comment. Every time we've done this, we've seen a fewer more people join in on the,
really?
on the
Well,
calls.
that's good.
So yeah, it'll be interesting to see as we move forward with this, you know, how that changes remote participation and if it increases.
Yeah. So I'm going to go back a little bit here. And I'm only saying this because so many times schools have started and then they had to shut down again.
Yeah.
And it could happen to the city too. So how did the COVID-19 affect you in terms of your job, working at, going to work, not going to work?
Sure.
That sort of thing.
Well, clearly, you know, safety and health and safety of the employees and the residents is of top concern of the city. So in addition to, you know, where there are positions that can work remotely, it's encouraged. But so I have been working remotely a lot of the times. I'll go into the office at times when needed, but and there are a lot of positions in the city that are able to do work remotely. And then with Zoom, you know, we use Zoom for meetings internally as well. So it allows us to stay connected and with each other. And I should say all these modifications have been made with we have not had we haven't limited any services that are available to the community. We've continued to offer all of the city services that we have in the past. Some of those we do. This has given us an opportunity to promote online services. People can go online to pay their bills. They can submit concerns online. So yeah, we've not made a change there at all or seen a decrease, but have been working remotely when able, or staggered work schedules, just to make sure that we're maintaining those distances and keeping everyone safe and healthy.
So what is your feeling about working from home? I mean, it can't be any fun, is it? I mean.
You know, the line of work that I do, it's a lot of digital work online.
Sure.
It can be done anywhere. And then again, with the capability to connect with the meetings and speak with people on a virtual basis, that works. I prefer a little bit of face-to-face time though. Every now and then. It's with some projects and some things it's easier to speak face-to-face than the virtual thing, but you know, it all works out. So.
Yep. Okay, so let's get into another topic here. The city recently sent out a survey.
Yes.
And you want to tell us about that?
Sure. So back in spring, the city issued a community-wide survey. We partnered with, we actually did the National Community Survey through the National Research Center, which is a firm based out of Colorado that does these surveys with communities across the country. And we did this because it's a really good way to get broad representative feedback from the entire community. You know, we've got, as we've discussed with all these other communication channels and methods that we have with the city and ways to connect with residents, some of those channels are limited in the breadth of who you're hearing from or making sure that these, you know, opinions and thoughts and comments are representative of the entire community. And the community survey allows us to get that bigger picture and input from a variety of residents, even those that aren't on social media. No, it's not limited to those that are utilizing the channel. So how this process worked is we sent out 1,700 surveys that were just mailed to randomly selected households. And the receivers of these surveys were able to, it had a self-addressed stamped envelope, so they just had to fill out the paper survey and mail it back to us. It was super convenient. Or if they preferred, there was a link that they could go and complete the survey online if they were inclined to that way instead. So with 1,700 sent out, we got 496 responses returned, which is a 30% response rate is high. That's higher than average.
It is.
So we are really excited to see that level of response and engagement from our community, because that really gives us some good data to work off of.
Sure.
In addition, we did do an online supplemental survey to allow everyone, whether they received, whether they were one of the randomly selected households, they could also offer their input, because obviously we want to hear from as many residents as we can. And we received an additional 74 responses from that survey. So we're really, really pleased with the amount of engagement that we had with this. And in terms of the responses, quite pleased with those as well.
Let me just ask you, so you get the responses back, does it go to this NRC or whatever that is?
Yes.
And then they make it right?
So the NRC gathers, yes, all of the information goes to the NRC, and they put together several different reports and compile the information. And not only do we get the hard data, but they have a database of about over 600 communities that serve as a benchmark. So they take our information, and they also provide us a report that shows how our responses compare to other like-sized communities across the nation. So it's good to get that benchmark to see where we're fitting in comparatively to other communities of our size. So it kind of serves the two purposes, and looking for the long-term benefit of the survey. Where you get a lot of that benefit is to look at trends over time. So our plan with this survey is to issue it every 3 years. A lot of communities do one every 2 years, or some of the larger communities will even do a community survey every year. Because as you know, community makeup changes, demographics change, perceptions change, community needs change. So we have a plan in place to do this community survey every 3 years. And that way, as we continue to go forward, we will see how our trends rate over time. So in some city services where we may have rated very high, they may drop, or vice versa. And that really helps city leadership and staff determine, where to focus our efforts, or maybe identify new needs in the community that we need to respond to.
So just from my experience over the years, generally speaking, Oakdale has done pretty well. People like living in Oakdale. It's a general rule, isn't that correct?
Yep. So a testament to that is the results that we received in this year's community survey, or I should say last year's. It was completed in July of 2020. So overall, we received an 85% satisfaction rating for the quality of life in Oakdale. And we've got, 8 and 10 say that they highly rank city services and the amount of service that they get from city employees. 8 and 10 say that they are likely to stay in Oakdale for the next 10 years.
Really?
9 and 10 said that if someone were asking where would be a good place to live, they would recommend Oakdale as a place to live. So, overall, we've seen very high ratings for the city. And as I mentioned, with NRC and comparing to their benchmarks in their database, overall, we were quite on par with a lot of the other communities that we were measured toward, but a couple areas where Oakdale ranked a little bit higher were overall quality of service.
Really?
Yeah, and the value of services for the tax, for what they're paying in taxes.
Yes.
They rated that higher.
Yes.
And then another one that I think is really good to see is overall trust in our local government. So it really,
Isn't
overall,
that great?
Yeah,
that is so
really
good.
good community. People are happy living here.
Yes.
Feeling like they're getting good value for the taxes that they're paying. High rankings on city services. So.
Well, the biggest thing is the streets are plowed. I mean,
yes.
Now granted we have, because, we are a newer community, so you can't park on the streets. But I'm telling you, the people are so impressed, people I talk to, so impressed with the plowing.
Yes.
I mean, you get up in the morning and your streets are plowed, you drive out and you're gone, you go to work.
Since you mentioned that, that is another area in the survey where comparatively we had much higher rankings than other communities that we were compared against.
Public service?
Street maintenance. Street and sidewalk maintenance,
yes. Yep. Oh, we can thank Brian Bachmeyer for that, correct?
Yeah.
Oh, that is so great. Well, I've enjoyed, I've been living here for 25, 30 years, and I can't think of anything, well, I shouldn't say that. I go back far enough that there was a lot of dissension on the city council many years ago. But, you know, it's all been taken care of. And we get new people in and they rise to the occasion. We've had excellent, now that's another thing. You work with our council and, you know, and the people in the office. Pretty good people, aren't they, as a general rule?
Absolutely, yeah. I love working in Oakdale.
We've done well. We have done well. So, okay, so I got one last question here. Summerfest is coming up, maybe. It might or might not be. So what are the plans? I know you're on the committee.
Yeah.
So what's going on that?
So as you know, last year we had to cancel Summerfest just due to where the pandemic was at that time, and that was pretty representative of all community festivals in our region, a lot of that happening. So this year, Summerfest Committee's #1 priority is to have Summerfest this year.
It is, okay.
Now, with that said, we are preparing for a variety of different circumstances. We're still kind of in this state of not knowing where we'll be in relation to the pandemic at that time. So the committee's being very thoughtful in their planning for this year's event to choose activities that can be scaled down to meet any social distancing requirements or safety guidelines that may exist at that time. So we're looking at activities that are scalable and can be modified to meet whatever criteria we're up against. So we're preparing for a variety of different scenarios and putting together some safety plans. But yes, the goal is to have Summerfest this year. We may see some modifications in programming from other years, just like I said, with these safety concerns. And then also, you know, we've taken some feedback brought in from the community, tying it back to the community survey. We had a couple questions on there about Summerfest just to find out what members of the community liked best about Summerfest, or, you know, what they would like to see. And through that and some other feedback from the community, food trucks has been a big draw lately in communities and in the public. So we're looking at possibly implementing some food truck.
What about the rides? Are they going to cancel the rides? Or?
So the rides will, we're not doing the rides this year for Summerfest just because if we are in a situation where we need to maintain social distancing and whatnot, that's not going to be an activity that we can pull off safely for that. And so while, you know, we're hoping that we can fill it with other activities that will be equally as exciting, and and you know, removing the carnival will actually open up some opportunities to add some new, fun, exciting activities. So.
Well, this darn COVID-19 has just put a kibosh on a lot of things, hasn't it? Life in general, of course.
Yeah.
Anyway, Alyssa, we're out of time,
right.
I'm afraid. But you did a fine job.
Well, thank you.
You know your business, and
Thank you.
I'm proud to have you working for me and the city.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Oh, you're doing a good job. Thank you so much. Thanks for coming on today.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Okay. That's all we have time for in this month's Oakdale Update. Just a quick reminder that there is no parking on the city streets from midnight to 5 a.m. each day and after a snowfall. That requires plowing until the streets are plowed curb to curb. Also, do not plow, shovel, sweep, or push snow into a city street, whether it's been plowed or not. For everyone at the City of Oakdale, thanks for watching.